On the morning of May 3rd, 1942, dense monsoon clouds hung heavy over the lush hills of Burma. The relentless rain had swollen the rivers, turning once peaceful streams into raging torrents that carved through the jungle below. In a small, remote village near the Burma-India border, an urgent tension gripped the air. Refugees from the advancing Japanese forces huddled together, fear shadowing their faces as they awaited a miracle to cross the flooded rivers. Among them stood a tall, weathered man in his late 40s, Gyles Mackrell. A British tea planter turned extraordinary rescuer, Mackrell's eyes scanned the swollen rivers with determination. The chaos of retreat had scattered thousands, both soldiers and civilians desperate to flee the advancing war. Traditional routes were now impassable, bridges destroyed, and many trapped by rising waters. But Mackrell had a plan, a daring one. He would rely on the strength and calm of the elephants that roamed the region. These giants, accustomed to the jungle, were his only hope to guide people safely across the raging rivers. As the villagers gathered, the low rumble of elephants echoed through the mist. The rescue was about to begin. The scene was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Mothers clutching children, elderly men leaning on walking sticks, and soldiers weary from battle all, ready to trust these massive animals. The rain slowed to a drizzle, the clouds parting just enough for a faint sunbeam to cut through, spotlighting the elephants' slow, steady steps toward the water's edge. It was a moment suspended in time, where human courage met nature's power. The rivers roared, but Mackrell's resolve was louder. Gyles Mackrell was no ordinary man. Born into a British family in England, he had moved to Burma years before the war to manage tea plantations. Life in the hills was serene until war shattered the peace. When the Japanese invasion pushed deep into Burma in early 1942, Mackrell was thrust into a harsh new reality. The rapid Japanese advance forced thousands to flee south toward India, but swollen rivers and destroyed infrastructure blocked many routes. Refugees became stranded in the dense jungle with little food, shelter, or hope. Mackrell, with his intimate knowledge of the terrain and connections to local elephant handlers, saw a path few dared to imagine. Elephants, revered and trusted by the local communities, were traditionally used for logging and transport. Mackrell knew their calm strength could be the key to crossing the flooded rivers safely, but organizing such a rescue during the chaos of war was unprecedented and dangerous. The monsoon season made travel unpredictable. River currents were strong enough to sweep people away. The jungle itself was filled with hidden dangers, venomous snakes, insects, and the constant threat of enemy patrols. Mackrell's decision to use elephants was not just innovative. It was a gamble, with lives on the line. His first mission was to locate and gather elephants with experienced Mahouts elephant handlers. The Mahouts' bond with their elephants was deep and unspoken. They understood each other's movements and moods perfectly. With their help, Mackrell prepared for the rescue missions. The refugees, mostly villagers and some British soldiers cut off from their units, looked to Mackrell with cautious hope. They had heard rumors of his plan and the strange but powerful creatures he intended to use. For many, it was the only chance to survive. Mackrell's calm demeanor and steady leadership inspired confidence. He worked tirelessly, coordinating rescue attempts despite constant rain and the danger of enemy patrols nearby. His knowledge of the jungle trails and river crossings became their lifeline. Every rescue mission pushed him and the elephants to their limits. The water rose higher, the jungle grew darker, but the resolve to save lives never wavered. His story became one of quiet heroism and known to most, but unforgettable to those who lived it. As May turned into June 1942, the floodwaters showed no sign of receding. Mackrell's rescue operations grew more urgent and more perilous. Each journey across the rivers was a test of courage, skill, and trust between man and beast. Elephants, with their immense size and gentle intelligence, proved to be perfect guides. Mackrell and his team loaded refugees onto the elephants' broad backs. Some were children, too weak to walk. Others were wounded soldiers. The elephants waded into the rivers, their massive legs cutting through currents that would have swept humans away in seconds. One particular rescue stood out a mission on the Irrawaddy River during a violent storm. The river was swollen beyond memory, currents swirling like a wild beast. Mackrell led the convoy of elephants into the water as rain lashed their faces. The refugees clung tightly, eyes wide with fear and hope intertwined. As the elephants crossed, one of the mahouts shouted warnings. A sudden surge threatened to overturn the elephants, but the animals pressed forward with calm determination, sensing the danger yet trusting their handlers. Mackrell's voice rose above the storm, guiding each step. Reaching the far shore felt like a miracle. Exhausted but alive, the refugees collapsed onto dry land, many weeping with relief. This moment transformed Mackrell's mission from an act of necessity into a symbol of hope. Word of his daring elephant rescues spread quietly through the jungle. More refugees found their way to him, and the convoy grew. Mackrell's team adapted to the challenges navigating shifting river channels, avoiding Japanese patrols, and managing scarce supplies. At times, the psychological toll was immense. Refugees haunted by loss, the constant threat of death, and the uncertainty of the war weighed heavily on everyone. Mackrell offered steady reassurance, speaking quietly about survival and faith in the elephants' strength. In the thick jungle, where every step could bring danger, the elephants became more than transport. They were lifelines. Their steady presence calmed frightened children and exhausted adults alike. The mahout's skillful handling ensured no one was left behind. Mackrell's leadership transformed from planter to protector, and his mission became a remarkable example of human resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Each successful crossing was a victory against nature and war's cruelty. By July 1942, dozens of crossings had saved hundreds of lives. Mackrell's story, though largely unknown outside the jungle, was a testament to the quiet courage that war often obscures. By mid-1942, the situation in Burma had reached a desperate point. The relentless Japanese advance pushed thousands more refugees and stranded soldiers deeper into the wilderness. The swollen rivers had become deadly barriers, trapping those who had nowhere left to run. The monsoon rains continued to flood the landscape, turning paths into mud and rivers into raging currents. The desperate cries for help echoed through the jungle, but rescue seemed impossible. Gyles Mackrell knew the stakes were higher than ever. The fragile network of villages and makeshift camps was disintegrating under pressure. Many had lost hope. Crossing the floodwaters on foot was certain death. But retreat was no longer an option for many. Starvation, disease, or capture by enemy forces awaited them. Mackrell's earlier elephant rescues had saved hundreds, but this was far from enough. The scale of the crisis was overwhelming. He faced a staggering question. Could the elephants carry dozens of refugees in a single, daring operation across the most treacherous rivers? This was the impossible idea. The rivers had never been crossed in such numbers by elephants carrying people during the monsoon floods. The risk was enormous. A misstep could send dozens to their deaths, or worse, alert the Japanese forces to their location. The elephants themselves could panic and break formation, turning the rescue into disaster. Yet Mackrell's resolve only deepened. He studied the river currents, consulted with the mahouts, and planned meticulously. He believed that, with careful timing, the elephant's unique ability to navigate the jungle and riverbeds could be harnessed for a mass evacuation. The elephants, strong and steady, would become floating islands of hope in the flood. The challenge extended beyond nature. Japanese patrols prowled the nearby jungle paths, making stealth and speed critical. Communication was difficult, and every rescue mission risked detection. Mackrell knew that if they were discovered, the consequences would be devastating for everyone. Despite the dangers, Mackrell saw no alternative. The refugees had no other lifeline. The idea that had once seemed reckless was now their last chance. He gathered his team and explained the plan with quiet determination. "We will cross the rivers, no matter the cost," he said, "and bring them all to safety." This moment was the turning point to a leap of faith driven by desperation, courage, and unwavering compassion. The impossible had to be made possible. On the dawn of July 15, 1942, the jungle was cloaked in mist. The riverbank buzzed with quiet urgency. Gyles Mackrell and his team prepared the elephants for what would be their most dangerous mission yet. The water level was near its highest currents swirling with deadly force. Refugees, men, women, children waited, faces pale but hopeful. The elephants were lined up along the muddy shore, trunks raised as if sensing the gravity of the task ahead. The mahouts whispered instructions, calming their animals. Mackerel checked the ropes and slings used to secure the refugees onto the elephants' backs. Every detail mattered. As the first group climbed aboard, the river roared below. The elephants stepped carefully into the rushing water, their massive feet sinking deep into the shifting riverbed. The refugees held on tightly, some clutching their few belongings, others trembling from exhaustion and fear. Crossing the river was a battle against nature itself. The water tugged at the elephants' legs, waves crashing against their sides. At one point, a sudden surge nearly toppled one of the elephants. The mahouts' quick command steadied the beast just in time. Mackrell's heart pounded as he shouted encouragement, guiding the animals through the fastest currents. Halfway across, the sky darkened as a heavy rainstorm broke. Visibility dropped to nearly nothing. The elephants moved slower, their breaths steady despite the storm's fury. Refugees whispered prayers, clutching each other as thunder boomed overhead. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the jungle. A tree struck by lightning crashed nearby, sending a shockwave through the river. Panic rippled among the refugees. One child cried out. The elephants, sensing the danger, pressed closer to the shore but did not flee. Their calm steadied the group. After what felt like hours, the rescue convoy reached the far bank. Exhausted but alive, the refugees scrambled off, their faces wet with rain and tears. Some collapsed, overwhelmed by relief. Mackerel surveyed the scene, dozens more lives saved from certain death. The operation repeated for days. Each crossing was a test of nerve and endurance. The elephants and their handlers formed a silent, unbreakable bond. They moved as one through the flooded jungle, always pushing forward despite fatigue and danger. Mackrell's leadership never faltered. His calm voice, steady hands, and deep knowledge of the terrain became the backbone of the mission. The impossible idea had become a lifeline. Though no famous battle was fought here, the drama was raw and human, of survival, trust, and the extraordinary alliance between man and nature. The floods receded slowly, but the memories of those days remain vivid. For those rescued, the elephants were not just animals, but guardian, silent heroes of a war that often celebrated guns over gentleness. And for Mackrell, every successful crossing was a quiet victory against the tide of destruction. By late 1942, as the monsoon began to wane, Gyles Mackrell's elephant rescue missions had saved hundreds of lives, both civilians and soldiers, caught in the deadly retreat through Burma's flooded jungles. His efforts, though little known outside the region, symbolized the quiet but profound act of humanity amid the devastation of war. The rivers that once seemed insurmountable barriers had been crossed again and again, not by machines or armies, but by elephants and the people who trusted them. This unorthodox approach highlighted the importance of adapting to local knowledge and nature's power during desperate times. Mackrell's work demonstrated how courage and compassion could make a tangible difference, even in the darkest chapters of history. While official military histories often focus on battles and strategies, the story of these elephant rescues reveals the human cost and resilience beneath the surface. The rescue missions also underscored the vital role played by local mahouts and communities. Their bond with the elephants, deep understanding of the jungle, and willingness to cooperate with Mackrell were indispensable. Without them, the operation would have been impossible. Though the war would rage on for years, the people Mackrell helped carry their memories of survival and hope forward. The elephants, too, left a lasting mark on those who rode them, symbols of strength, patience, and quiet bravery. In the broader history of World War II, these rescues remind us that war is not only fought with weapons, but with empathy and ingenuity. They tell of lives saved in the margins, where ordinary individuals chose to act with extraordinary resolve. After the war, Gyles Mackrell returned to a quieter life, far from the headlines and honors given to generals and politicians. His story remained largely untold, passed down in whispers among survivors and local communities. Yet the legacy of the elephant rescues endured testimony to what humanity can achieve when faced with overwhelming odds. Mackrell's actions remind us that even in war's darkest hours, compassion can carve paths to survival. The elephants themselves became living legends. Their calm strength and gentle nature bridged cultures and fears, teaching those who depended on them lessons of trust and perseverance. The Mahout's devotion to their animals was a crucial part of this story, a bond that transcended the chaos surrounding them. In recent years, historians and writers have begun to uncover and share this remarkable chapter of the Burma campaign. It stands not as a tale of conquest or glory, but as a humble story of lives saved through courage, ingenuity, and the quiet heroism of a man and his elephants. The story of Gyles Mackrell and his elephant rescue missions challenges us to look beyond the grand narratives of war and remember the everyday acts of bravery that shape human history. It reminds us that when the earth seems to betray us through floods, fires, or conflict, hope can still be found in the most unexpected places. This is the history of World War II. Whoever oppresses the innocent is an oppressor. Neither the earth belongs to this oppressor, nor does the sky belong to him. We stand now and forever with the oppressed. This is WW2 Files. See you in the next one.